Every generation is told the same story, that capitalism made the rich richer and everyone else miserable. And most people never stop to ask who told them that story and why. Capitalism has turned into such a scary word for most people. Instantly, it triggers thoughts of exploitation, the rich dominating our lives, companies stealing our money. There are two reasons why capitalism became such a scary word, and more importantly, I'll share with you what capitalism really is, the side we haven't seen yet. But before I do that, I first want us to look at what capitalism does to you. What happens when the market is in the hands of free individuals, in your hands? Well, it's giving you a lot of responsibility, right? You're responsible for where you end up, and therefore, there's a lot of pressure for you to do better. And to think whatever you may be doing, whatever you may be working on, there's at least 1,000 other people doing the same thing. That just adds to the pressure. But under that pressure forms diamonds. The more pressure you handle, the stronger you become. The more accountable you are, the more capable you are. Become capable enough, and you start noticing who is not. You might start asking questions like, why would I need someone telling me what to do? Like the government telling me how to spend my money? I can take care of that myself. Dangerously, you may even question if we need government to be spending our money on programs where nothing gets done. Get capable enough, and you'll wonder, what makes politicians qualified to handle billions of dollars? Why don't they have any accountability? And you, as a normal citizen, may start finding yourself to be more capable than them. Ask yourself, who villainizes capitalism most? Power-hungry politicians. And their hatred is absorbed and repeated by their supporters. Take a step back. When people call to end capitalism, what are they really asking for? Politicians villainize capitalism for two reasons. The most immediate is they're doing it to have more control of the free market. The more they can control the flow of trade, the more they can create alliances with businesses that will pay them off for special treatment. For example, in New York, the government created a rule that to drive a taxi, you need a special medallion, a government license costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the companies with political connections, which you get through donations, got favorable treatment. And for the new taxi companies that are trying to compete, they're put out of business. The second and more long-term reason politicians villainize capitalism is to create generations of people dependent on government handouts. When you remove free markets, you then remove the pressure, the huge pressure of your future being completely in your hands. Instead, that responsibility gets to be shared with your big government, who will help you, take care of you, through welfare, food stamps, housing. This creates codependency, and dependent people are the most loyal voters. Now, the reason so many people hate capitalism, not politicians, but people, is one, a lot of that hatred is just overspill coming from the politicians. So, they're just parroting them. And two, they think that by attacking companies, they will be given some of their wealth. So truthfully, they're looking for more handouts. It's that codependency that they have with big government. They hope that by ripping the bloodstained and exploited money away from the evil rich, it can be redistributed back to them in a nice welfare check, or through free healthcare, or free anything. Now, I wanted to lay down the essence of what they mean when they say capitalism is evil before anything else. For politicians, they do it to increase their wealth through reclaiming the free market and creating generations of dependent voters. And for their supporters, they do it to get in on some of that stolen wealth so that they can hopefully get more free stuff. So now we've stripped away the slogans and seen what's really hiding underneath. Now we see the ugly truth behind every critic of capitalism, that it all comes from a selfish and evil desire to get more free stuff. Now that we see that, let's expose what they're really going after. The essence of pure capitalism. Capitalism, by definition, is an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit. Three phrases in here are what help give capitalism a bad rap: controlled by, private owners, and for profit. It's easy to see the word control and think it means seized, stolen, or taken. Control just means it is their responsibility. It is up to them. Take it or leave it. Next, private owners. Instantly, people think of Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, these multi-billionaires. Private owners means individuals, citizens, you, me, anyone. Next, for profit. Profit is seen as evil, but what does it represent? Profit in this context is quite literally an exchange of a product or service for a currency. Let me explain. A product is created. That product has a represented number in currency. To those who think it's worth it, they will buy it. And many times, the product is worth more to that person than the money they paid for it. This keyboard was $80, Apple keyboard. Probably cost $15 to make, $5 for shipping. So their profit is $60. But guess what everyone ignores? The millions of dollars they spent in researching and developing this technology. And so even though it cost them $20 to assemble this and get it to my door, it cost millions to get to this point. And I get access to all of that for $80. Did I get exploited? No, I got more than what I paid for. And even if the prices were higher, it's still the buyer's choice to make that purchase. So the argument of being exploited is just an argument for getting more free stuff. To argue against profit is to argue against people being rewarded for their work. The dependent people take the product out of context. They ignore the effort and money it took to develop, design, test, market, and create the product. Instead, they just look at the final product and they sit on their thrones of false morality saying, "How dare you make a profit?" So to put our understanding of those three phrases, controlled by, private owners, and for profit, back into the definition of capitalism, we get a system where it is the people's responsibility to build the economy by creating and exchanging values. Suddenly, capitalism seems a lot better. It's just a system where it's the people's responsibility to build the economy by creating and exchanging values. Capitalism almost seems like it's a natural law that should have always existed because all it's doing is protecting the people's freedom to build their economy. But here's what's crazy. America, as beautiful and wonderful as she is, has never experienced true capitalism. She was much more capitalist in her early years soon after her creation, but ever so quickly, power-hungry politicians have been digging their claws into our free market. Once the first regulation was set into law, we lost our free market. In fact, America we live in today is not true capitalism. What people call capitalism today is really crony capitalism. And that's part of the reason why they hate it. That is basically when the government has some hand in the free market through regulations. And they do it to form allies with big companies by giving them regulatory exemptions for major donations. This blocks out competition, which means those companies can now also charge higher. And the reason we don't recognize it is because we've never seen pure capitalism. Their control is so embedded in our markets over our health, transportation, airline. Realize, America has the worst railroads for a reason. In 1887, when we were making the most advanced railroads at the time, the government passed the Interstate Commerce Act. One of the main things that they were trying to remove was discriminatory rates from railroads. But in essence, they passed a law that let them control what the railroad companies were able to do with their own prices. Back then, a railroad grew by offering discounts and deals to early riders to create new settlements in resource-rich environments. That way, their railroads could be used to transport those resources. Well, they killed that discount, calling it discriminatory rates. So the ability to keep on boosting the economy through expanding the railroads died. They called them discriminatory so the public would cheer while the government seized their control, killing an entire industry for a small and selfish gain. Imagine the magnitude of technology, health, and transportation we would have today if only they let the market stay free. Now, I want to add something very personal because this is the only way to move forward. The best way to fight this takeover of capitalism, the only way to fight, is to use what's left of it. To take control of your own future by building the vehicle to get to your dreams and ambition. To bring back fully free markets is to use the semi-free markets we have today. To bring forth values so great that public opinion laughs when politicians label businesses as discriminatory or products as exploitation. Their disgusting play cards have to be overpowered by overwhelming value. Changing the system has always been the angle, to get good people in office, to fix the laws, but that is a loser's game. To think that way is to believe that it takes a new system to change the people. I say that's codependency. And I say to take responsibility. Because if we want free markets, if we want to be in charge of our lives, then we can't rely on a system to allow that. Responsibility has always been ours, and so the obligation to be a capitalist is nothing more than to recognize our responsibility and use it. To create values for the world and expand those values through profit. Being a capitalist is the righteous path. By benevolently creating values for the world, it's the only right way to live because it's the only way life is truly yours. A life reflecting your actions, limited only by your dreams. Saving America, which also means saving your future, everyone's future, will not happen by changing the system. It will happen by changing your life. Because the values created by a single capitalist can change the world.